hard as this choice is, we break the pattern. Or the pattern breaks us.
It ends with us, released back in 2024, but most of the conversation connected to the film is tied to the public spat between co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. A judge is set to hear oral arguments in the civil case this morning. Cameras are not allowed in federal court, but most of the action has been in the court of public opinion, including newly revealed text messages from Lively's superstar friend Taylor Swift that include this spicy interaction between Swift and Lively back in December of 2024 after Justin Baldoni had spoken with People magazine. Swift wrote to Lively, quote, "I think this bee knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin." Could Taylor Swift's text messages tip the scales in this case in any way? Let's talk about it. Let's bring in the host of the podcast, No Filter with Zach Peter, my friend Zach Peter. Zach, good morning to you. You've been all over this story, so help us, please. Give us some context to these interactions. We're going to put them up on the screen and have you help us go through them. Let's go back to December 2024, where the two acknowledge there's a rift going on. Lively checks in with Swift saying she's felt like a bad friend lately. Swift replies that she feels distanced, and Lively's recent communications to her read like a mass corporate email, but she asks her to come back, please. And then later that month in 2025, early there, another text message Swift sends to Lively, news of Baldoni being dropped by his agency. And she writes, quote, "You won, you did it, and you helped so many people who won't have to go through this again." Zach, tell us, please, why is this friendship so key to this civil lawsuit now?
Well, because initially when the news first broke, Taylor Swift made it clear that she had no involvement. She wanted no part of this scandal. I mean, well, the second it became a scandal, right? When it was just the New York Times article, people were still very much, believing Blake Lively's allegations and really sympathizing with her, right? Because she was saying that she had such a terrible experience on this set. And then the second Baldoni started releasing his side of the story, that's when Taylor Swift immediately ran for the hills and was like, I had no part of any of this. I barely met Baldoni one time. And now we're starting to see these communications between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. And it's starting to look like Taylor Swift had a lot more involvement, at least with, some of the behind the scenes mechanics with helping Blake Lively as she was trying to take more control over this film.
This is such a great insight from you, Zach, as per usual. So for anybody who hasn't really followed it closely, we know it's a hot mess what's going on with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I mean, just a total mess. They both have gotten really messy with this, and now it's all over the place. And to your point, the Swift camp was saying, this has nothing to do with our star. She's not involved. And so now, from what you're saying, it sounds like there was some knowledge and communications going on, and now Baldoni's team is all over that, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely, because they were trying to pull Taylor Swift into this, since the beginning of 2025. And Blake Lively was like, nope, she had nothing to do with it. And we even heard Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney, accusing them of saying that, Blake Lively and her attorneys were trying to extort Taylor Swift, that they were threatening to release text messages. And at that point, it seemed like the friendship between Taylor and Blake really was fractured. And so now, we saw there was a report in TMZ yesterday that Taylor Swift is likely going to be called as a hostile witness come May at trial. That's what they're reporting, that they're planning to drag her into this, willingly or not. And she's going to have to answer for what her actual involvement of it was, because we see her and Blake Lively cackling as mean girls. And that's kind of the perception that we're seeing in Hollywood, is that Taylor Swift, who's had this reputation of, being the innocent girl, right? The good girl. We had Scooter Braun taking advantage of her. We had Kim and Kanye bullying her. And now we're seeing a lot of that problematic behavior that she was accusing other people of doing. We're now starting to see some of that same behavior reflected in these text messages.
To that point, Zach, I'm curious, where do the Swifties stand in this? Are they mad at either of these lawsuit participants? How are they feeling this morning?
I was actually surprised. I thought, I mean, there's the fraction of Swifties that are just die hard for Taylor, and she can never do any wrong, right? And that's why she's so successful. She has that loyal fandom. But I've been surprised at how much feedback I've gotten, even in my own comments, or people responding to my podcast that are like, "Listen, I'm a Taylor Swift fan. I'm a Swiftie, die hard, but I'm also Team Baldoni." So a lot of them are even not condoning some of this behavior because it does look like it's mean girl energy in Hollywood. And I think there's just this overwhelming sentiment that we're tired of Hollywood bullies that are taking advantage of, the smaller guy, the David and Goliath case that we're seeing play out here with Justin Baldoni. And we're now seeing, Matt Damon was involved. Blake Lively was reaching out to Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. We saw Gigi Hadid and Bradley Cooper were, helping with the early stages of the film before it was released. We saw Hugh Jackman supporting them. So it seems like they had a really strong crew of powerful people like Taylor Swift that were in their court as this whole, behind the scenes drama was unfolding.
Right. Excellent insight, Zach. You've done such a great job putting out so many of your videos covering this. I always enjoy watching your show. And for anybody who wants to see more, I encourage them to follow you right now. I want to bring in attorney John Phillips to answer a question you raised, Zach, about, look at John.
Oh.
You're so much fun. Oh, my goodness. Zach pointed out about the idea that this defense team, Justin Baldoni's team, could potentially call Taylor Swift as a hostile witness. And so I want to pick your brain. What's that going to look like if that happens?
It's me. Hi, I'm the lawyer. It's me. You knew I had to do it. I had to do it.
He's here the whole show. Friends at home. Whole show.
I don't see how it gets relevant. Like, there's certainly some active involvement in script review, but this just seems like tabloid stuff, right? Who's the bad guy? Taylor. I have 3 boys, so I had to kind of prepare for this. But like, Taylor has a lyric about, in this town, you're the only real one. That's what the court has to figure out. Which one's the real one? Because both of them, even to Taylor's point, have kind of put this on their shoulders way too much, and kind of brought in their friends when Taylor really didn't have a role in this.
Going into law professor mode really quickly. If the defense calls Taylor witness as a hostile witness, which they can do if it can be established that, she's Team Lively and biased, toward her best friend, they can treat it like a cross-examination when she gets up there. So it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be all leading questions, very, very uncomfortable. John, anything Taylor Swift can do to try to stop this from happening?
Oh, I'd file every motion in the world, because her testimony actually has to be relevant. It has to present, some level of offering to the cause of action, to the elements. And I'd say she's just shooting the crap with her friends. So, I mean, you can file motions to strike. You can fight subpoenas. She's welcome to call. We're happy to do it. 1-800-LITIGATE. But, I don't see where I get why they're bringing her in. I just don't see the legal why.
Okay. Zach, let me ask you the same question. Do you see why they're bringing her in? What value do you think she would bring to the defense?
Well, we're now seeing that there are layers and potential involvement of Taylor Swift being the one that may have orchestrated Blake Lively's relationship with the New York Times with this smear piece that was initially presented before litigation took place. I don't know what her culpability would be in all of that, but I would imagine that would go back to Baldoni's initial allegations. I know his countersuit was dismissed, but they could prove that there was malice and, intent to not only extort them, which was their initial allegation with taking over the film, but then with the defamation claims of planting this piece in the New York Times. If they can prove that Taylor Swift was initially, part of that orchestration, I would imagine that there is some fingerprints left behind that tie back to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, great points. Zach Peter, John Phillips, we got to leave it there for now. Thank you both so much for coming on Opening Statement.